Coming up on 5 Minute News. More GOP lawmakers rejecting Trump's bid to undo his defeat. Wisconsin pharmacist thought vaccine he spoiled was unsafe. And baked-in global warming will blow past climate goals. It's Tuesday, January 5. I'm Anthony Davis. With mounting desperation, Donald Trump appealed to Republican lawmakers on Monday to reverse his election loss to Joe Biden when Congress convenes for a joint session this week to confirm the Electoral College vote. Trump's unprecedented attempt to overturn the presidential election is splitting the Republican Party. Some GOP lawmakers backing Trump are rushing ahead, despite an outpouring of condemnation from current and former party officials, warning the effort is undermining Americans' faith in democracy. Vice President Mike Pence, who is under pressure to tip the results for Trump, will be closely watched as he presides in a ceremonial role over Wednesday's joint session. "I promise you this, on Wednesday, we'll have our day in Congress," Pence said while campaigning in Georgia for Republicans ahead of today's runoff elections that will determine control of the Senate. One of those Georgia Republicans, Senator Kelly Loeffler, who faces Democratic Raphael Warnock, announced she will object to Biden's win. The other Republican seeking re-election, David Perdue, who is running against Democrat Jon Ossoff, will not be eligible to vote tomorrow in the Senate. Biden, speaking at a drive-in rally in Atlanta, said Trump spends more time whining and complaining than he does working on solving the coronavirus pandemic. He added dismissively, "I don't know why he still wants the job. He doesn't want to do the work." Critics say Trump is desperate to overturn the election to provide him 4 more years of protection against prosecution. Representative Ted Lieu of Los Angeles County joined Representative Kathleen Rice of New York on Monday in asking the FBI to open a criminal investigation into the phone call in which President Donald Trump asked Georgia's chief elections officials to find votes and overturn Joe Biden's win in the state. Lieu, who represents a portion of the West Side and the South Bay, co-signed a letter with Rice addressed to the FBI Director Christopher Wray, asking for an immediate criminal investigation into the president. A Wisconsin pharmacist, convinced the world was crashing down, told police he tried to ruin hundreds of doses of coronavirus vaccine because he believed the shots would mutate people's DNA, according to court documents released yesterday. Police in Grafton, about 20 miles north of Milwaukee, arrested Advocate Aurora Health pharmacist Stephen Brandenburg last week following an investigation into the 57 spoiled vials of the Moderna vaccine, which officials say contained enough doses to inoculate more than 500 people. A detective wrote in a probable cause statement that 46-year-old Brandenburg is an admitted conspiracy theorist, and he told investigators he intentionally tried to ruin the vaccine because it could hurt people by changing their DNA. Misinformation around the COVID-19 vaccines has surged online. One of the earliest false claims suggested that the vaccines could alter DNA. The Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine, as well as the Moderna vaccine, rely on messenger RNA or mRNA, which is a fairly new technology used in vaccines that experts have been working on for years. mRNA vaccines help train the immune system to identify the spike protein on the surface of the coronavirus and create an immune response. Experts have said there is no truth to the claim that the vaccines can genetically modify humans. Police said the discarded doses were worth between $8,000 and $11,000. Judge Paul Malloy ordered Brandenburg held on a $10,000 signature bond, surrender his firearms, not work in healthcare, and have no contact with Aurora employees. Brandenburg's wife of 8 years filed for divorce in June. The couple has 2 small children. According to an affidavit his wife filed on December 30th, the same day Brandenburg was arrested in the vaccine tampering, he stopped off at her house and dropped off a water purifier and 2 30-day supplies of food, telling her that the world was crashing down and that she was in denial. He said the government was planning cyber attacks and was going to shut down the power grid. The amount of baked-in global warming from carbon pollution already in the air is enough to blow past international agreed-upon goals to limit climate change, a new study has found. But it's not game over, because while that amount of warming may be inevitable, it can be delayed for centuries if the world quickly stops emitting extra greenhouse gases from the burning of coal, oil and natural gas, the study's authors say. For decades, scientists have talked about so-called committed warming, or the increase in future temperature based on past carbon dioxide emissions that stay in the atmosphere for well over a century. It's like the distance a speeding car travels after the brakes are applied. But Monday's study in the journal Nature Climate Change calculates that bit differently and now figures the carbon pollution already in the air will push global temperatures to about 2.3 degrees Celsius of warming since pre-industrial times. International climate agreements set goals of limiting warming to 2 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, with the more ambitious goal of limiting it to 1.5 degrees Celsius, added in Paris in 2015. The world has already warmed about 1.1 degrees Celsius. You've got some global warming inertia that's going to cause the climate system to keep warming, and that's essentially what we're calculating, said study co-author Andrew Dessler, a climate scientist at Texas A&M University. Think about the climate system like the Titanic. It's hard to turn the ship when you see the icebergs. Just because the world is bound to get more warming than international goals doesn't mean it's all lost in the fight against global warming, said Dessler, who cautioned against what he called climate doomers. If the world gets to net zero carbon emissions soon, 2 degrees of global warming could be delayed enough so that it won't happen for centuries, giving society time to adapt or even come up with technological fixes, he said. If we don't, we're going to blow through climate goals in a few decades. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.